The ambush of Bloodhound Q50 occurred on August 17, 2025, in St. Louis.
Oh my lord!
Everyone has since been searching for the person responsible for Lil Jeff's death. Q50's affiliates have already been said to have retaliated. Focusing on Chicago's Trap City Rob. Once more, the battle between Bloodhound and Trap City has broken out. Let us analyze it. When Q50 was set up in the restroom, it almost perished. You already know, if you have been watching the situation, that Q50 and his Bloodhound family are serious about that comeback. As members of a gang known for their involvement in ongoing feuds with rivals like Trap City, Toss Gang, Risky Road, and TMC. The Bloodhounds have a history of using retaliatory violence when their members or close friends are attacked or killed. But these aren't studio gangsters. It's a very significant exercise for these lads. There seems to have been a retaliatory action taken by Q50's camp. To discover how it all came to be, we need to take a look back. To get to where he is now, Q50, officially known as Mikwael Tyreek Cooper, had to put in a lot of effort. The teenager from the south side of Chicago didn't initially intend to become a rapper. Q50 claims he wasn't even supposed to be rapping. 'Twas Vert, Lil Jeff, and Lil Sko who were serious about music. But when tragedy befell his closest family members, he had to take a stand to carry on his family's legacy. A number of real-life adversities had shaped the young monarch into the wise individual he is today. Q50 demonstrated early on that he wasn't to be taken lightly when he was expelled from 6th grade for carrying a BB pistol to class and shooting a female pupil. Throughout his time in school, he switched between Chicago and Indiana, but he never lost contact with the neighborhoods where he was raised. But what really influenced Q50's character was his bond with his cousin, Jeff. When they were older and making decisions about their lives while living on the streets together, Q50 claims that he and Jeff didn't really click. Jeff and his absent father were inseparable, with Jeff being the big brother Q50 never had.
It's pretty serious out there in Chicago, okay? The Bloodhounds, you saw the video about Lil Jeff, the infamous alleged hitman who claimed himself, he said himself that he had 11 bodies, he had 11 hats, but his right-hand man Q50, he'd been running around the world saying that he got 8 bodies.
Take a look. Q50 had a feeling of being heavy on August 17, 2025. In his rap career, homie had recently had some notable success. He got ready for what appeared to be a fantastic event. Q50 claimed to be in St. Louis showing off his diamond watch. His music was doing well, and he was signed to Grade A by flashing his bust-down Rolex with the Arabic numbers appearing fly as hell. The young monarch was ready to show everyone that he was in the L, but this is when the story becomes extremely convoluted. Q50 was said to have some unfinished business in St. Louis. And when I say unfinished business, I mean that Q50 was charged with stealing it from residents of St. Louis, whom he later boasted about in his lyrics. This theft's history was even more insulting. Given that the money was allegedly stolen to retrieve jewelry that belonged to one of his friends, it's not just about the bread though. It's also about loyalty and respect. In the beginning, the performance itself seemed to be good. There was a Q50 on stage. They became a crowd. The energy was right. He was unaware, however, that some real killers were clandestinely preparing something special for him. This was the moment he had been waiting for, and the boys from St. Louis would not allow him to leave their town without giving the piper compensation.
Now, I'm going to give you the little backstory of why this actually allegedly went down, okay? People are saying he ran off with 60,000 from people in St. Louis, right? This is going around on Reddit. Q50 shot in St. Louis after allegedly running off with $60,000.
Numerous people with knowledge of the situation assert that the people from whom Q50 was allegedly taken had a sophisticated plan. This group of cats went all out, and they hired him for the same program to serve him that hot. Talk about playing chess with your opponent when they are playing checkers. The fact that this young man was going right into a death trap was completely unknown to him. Instead of being trapped in the center of a military operation, Q50 and his crew were caught in the middle of a well-planned ambush. There have been allegations that almost 60 automatic bullets hit his vehicle. Munitions. They used 7.62 caliber ammunition, according to some accounts. Given that the handle of the Q50 is really 762, that fact is very noteworthy. Gunpowder and obvious contempt were the means by which these children were delivering their message. It was cold-blooded and calculated math. According to reports, 60 shot casings were found at the location. Their message stated that we will return 60 rounds for $60,000 if you want to take $60,000. There is some real street accountant timing, you know?
Allegedly, there were 60 shell casings at the scene, so they done sent a message. You want to take 60K, we're going to give you back 60. We don't give it back. We're giving it as good as we get it, all right?
That work caused for people to become seriously ill. And early reports said that everyone was worried that this one might not be the last for the Q50. Upon witnessing what seemed to be his Escalade crash at the emergency room, the entire internet went crazy.
This is looking like a Cadillac Escalade truck crashed into the emergency room, okay? This is looking like it was a frantic dash for the emergency room. They're saying that 4 people got shot outside that.
However, this is where the heat really builds. Many others were overcome with emotion when they saw the shooting news on social media. CTS, Lil Wick, and Real Houdini, 2 rappers from St. Louis who were involved with groups like 1448, Valet Gang, and CTS publicly took credit for the attack online by uploading victory laps and clowning Q50 before they even knew if he was dead or alive. For those who don't know, CTS Lil Wick is more than just a rapper who shares violent things on the internet. Hey, CTS Lil Wick wrote about it too. Lil Wick, a multi-talented white rapper, is CTS. When the shooting occurs, he makes fun of Q50. This cat has a body on its jacket. He allegedly beat a body in self-defense after driving a dirt bike and valet parking someone. He was not, therefore, merely an ordinary individual acting irresponsibly when he started to harass Q50. The disdain was heartfelt, and it was noisy. However, these cats from St. Louis were unaware that they were doing more than just fighting with Q50. The entire Bloodhound family was to be fought. You only make that mistake once, as anyone who knows Chicago politics is aware. Q50 went live on Instagram, boasting about himself as if nothing had occurred after surviving the onslaught. In Chicago, the entire Bloodhound organization was getting hotter. Word made its way swiftly through the trenches, and everyone in that camp was ready to slip. It was too open, too personal, and too blatantly clear to be accepted. What prevents the Bloodhounds from playing about and returning? Understanding why the St. Louis scenario became such a big problem requires you to understand how the Bloodhounds play that revenge game. Not all of the rappers in this group are known for using exclusively strong language in their tracks. As members of a gang known for their involvement in ongoing feuds with rivals like Trap City, Toss Gang, Risky Road, and TMC. The Bloodhounds have a history of using retaliatory violence when their members or close friends are attacked or killed. These men have spent years perfecting their get-back technique, and they have a whole playbook on how to serve that hot to anyone that comes sideways. Retaliation is a common mindset in Chicago's drill milieu, where feuds can go on for months, or even years, fueled by personal slights, thefts, disrecordings, and even past murders. Being loyal is more than just a word to the Bloodhounds. They are bonded together by an enduring blood oath. The optimal example of in response to Lil Jeff stealing a necklace from Trap City affiliate Vel. Trap City members allegedly killed Bloodhound Zoni on March 16, 2023, which prompted their actions. Without any delay, the Bloodhounds began crying and sending melancholy emojis. Without delay, they set to work. A Trap City member named El Jalil Goons, also called Leo or Lyle, was ambushed and killed on June 25, 2023. while riding in an elevator near the UIC campus after more than 20 rounds were fired. But the real turning point, the moment that made everyone realize how interwoven this brotherhood was the death of Lil Jeff. You see, Jeff wasn't just a member of the squad. The whole thing was about him. It was Q50's blood relative who really made them renowned in the drill scene. In contrast to just being a cousin, Q50 refers to Jeff as a brother figure, emphasizing their common bonds and mutual support in both music and street life. Most people were unaware of how closely these two were related. It wasn't until they were older and started making their own decisions and going out on the streets together that they became close. Despite growing up in the same South Side area, Q50 often compared Jeff to the main character in their book about him. It wasn't because he tried to be that way, it was just who he was.
You said early on that you felt like Lil Jeff was like the main character.
Yeah. It wasn't really like, no, how can I explain? That's just how brother was. Like, you know what I'm saying? He always was like the main character, you know what I'm saying? I don't really know, just like, how can I explain?
Their musical kinship was undeniable. Songs by 333 and Don't Blink or Stare became quite popular. The latter got 20 million Spotify streams. However, their cooperation was special for reasons other than just the numbers. They were rapping about authenticity and real-life occurrences, even playing their tunes during meetings with labels. Jeff was trying to get Q50 to take rap seriously and increase their profile. Despite Q50's desire to stay in the background and support his cousin's career, Jeff saw something special in him and continued to urge him to grab the microphone. As Q50 discussed losing Jeff, you could hear the pain in his voice. Real emotion, genuine tears, not that fake sympathy on the internet.
Like my big brother, like this, like my everyday. You know what I'm saying? Like it's we in the same household. You know what I'm saying? We waking up every day, popping out with each other. You feel me? Like this who got my back through whatever. You know what I'm saying? Like he going against the whole world for me.
That loss ruined Q50 irreparably, in one of the most candid performances you'll ever see from a drill rapper. He spoke on the impact Jeff's death had on him.
I ain't gonna lie, that's probably the most I ever cried in my life.
But on the streets, sadness morphs not just into despair, but into inspiration. Q50's first album, Long Live My Brother, he probably killed Yo Bruda, which featured Jeff's lyrics and preserved his legacy through the music, was published in April 2025. He took his job as a rapper more seriously. And this was a tribute to Jeff's passing. But there was more to the response to Jeff's death than just sentimentality. It was methodical and harsh. The most extensive cycle of revenge followed after Bloodhound. Lil Jeff was shot 19 times on June 8, 2024, during a failed hit on Trap City member Mineski in Trap City territory. More than 10 deaths allegedly brought on by Bloodhound revenge occurred during the course of at least a year of bloodshed. In no time, the body counts started to rise. On September 25, 2024, CEO Howen was slain in a firefight on Bloodhound grounds near 78th in Maryland. He died on September 28, 3 days later. In a song teaser, Q50 hinted at Carter's involvement, although Carter was executed on Chicago's South Side in October 2024, especially as revenge against Sony. However, they were not just hitting gang members. Their words were addressed to all those who thought they could play with the Bloodhound name. A drive-by at Carter's funeral in Harvey, Illinois, in October 2024 killed Romeo. As Bloodhound continued to attack Trap City, they were trapped in the crossfire. Yes, there is some cold-bloodedness there. Not even allowing others to mourn in silence. It was alarmingly true. 30 days after Jeff at 89th and Langley was shot twice in the chest, Lil Scoom, Risky Road, was lured and killed on July 7, 2024, following the theft of $6,300 from a Bloodhound associate in May 2024. TMC Slide was shot in the head.
I just found out that Carter, who's Trap City, who was actually the guy whose chain Lil Jeff stole, that started the war between Trap City and Bloodhound, is gone. He's gone. Carter is gone. Carter was taken out last night.
What made the Bloodhounds so dangerous was not just their propensity to slip. It's because they were patient. They planned their moves, waited, and launched an attack when their enemies least expected it. This was not an instance of unplanned violence or shooting. In chess, they were typically 3 moves ahead. Consequently, when the word reached the lines, the shooting up of Q50 in St. Louis was not regarded as a single attack. The Bloodhound was seen as a direct insult to what it stood for. If a crew had built their entire reputation on protecting their own and taking revenge on those who had betrayed them, letting this happen would have been seen as weakness. You are slain on the streets if you are weak. The response came instantly. As a matter of fact, Q50 wrote an article that basically said, "Lil Jeff and Scoom, you can now rest. Now that the feet have kicked up, it's time to get some cash." As with Mother, Jeff did what they had to do. It wasn't merely an Instagram caption. It was an announcement of war. Nevertheless, this time, not only a few local operatives from the same town would be the target of Bloodhounds. Lou would be affected by this looming interstate. It's a problem all the way back to the Chi and to the boys from St. Louis who thought they were secure since they were in a different state. The Bloodhounds' reach was greater than they had ever imagined. And they were going to find out when the smoke cleared and the dead dropped. Because this is where things become very crazy. You have to be careful about who you play with on the streets. In St. Louis, the Bloodhound did not respond promptly when the Q50 lined up. It was strategic and well executed, and sent a message evidently understood in both cities. The Bloodhounds didn't just chase the first targets that appeared or fire up St. Louis at random. They did something far more deliberate. To start, they decided to wrap up some loose ends at home, with particular reference to the cats that had killed Lil Jeff, their biggest loss. Want to play some games? We're going to clean the house thoroughly, they appeared to be saying. The individual they chose as their target was flawless in every manner. Carter, the member of Trap City, whose theft of a chain had sparked the conflict that ultimately resulted in Jeff's death. Carter, the owner of Trap City, is no longer there. In fact, Lil Jeff stole his chain, which sparked the conflict between Trap City and Bloodhound. It was too ideal in its symbolism. The ultimate price was about to be paid by the man whose chain initiated everything. The timing of this hit was even more inappropriate. Look, Carter did make it to the interview. In fact, during that same interview, video recording of him discussing the chain incident and how it all transpired was released. On Couch TV, Homie gave his version of events, presumably believing he was safe to do so. Here's the worst part though. Trap City essentially reenacted Lil Jeff's death in that same interview. In fact, that clip was released yesterday. That same night, Carter passes away, which is absurd. It was excessively disrespectful. Additionally, the Bloodhounds ensured that Carter's last action was ridiculed.
There was a lot of people saying that motherfucker ain't got back for Jeff, they ain't did nothing, they ain't gonna do nothing. Q50 actually made a post, and in his post, he basically said like, Lil Jeff and Scoom, y'all can get some rest now.
Rob wrote on social media, "How many of you are going to perish behind this chain?" Even other Trap City members knew how terrible the situation was. That's not what Bloodhounds did, according to Trap City Terror. There are people who are slithering with Bloodhounds. That's what it's doing. The message was the same whether they handled it themselves or through their associates. You can tell that things are going to turn ugly when your own people are basically saying that the battle isn't done. What really shocked people, though, was the realization that the Bloodhounds were no longer just active locally. This organization was on a whole other level. Louis, It was becoming clear to those cats who were celebrating Q50's shooting that they may have taken on more than they could manage. Speaking slickly online can have real-world consequences, as CTS, Lil Wick, and Real Houdini were about to learn. After publicly taking credit for the attack online, publishing celebration videos, and making fun of Q50. And it wasn't just a group of random street cats who were part of the St. Louis team that carried out the attack. CTS Lil Wick gained a lot of notoriety after winning a murder case in 2024. Despite being a white rapper in a predominantly black drill culture, and his music had real street credibility because he had successfully defended his case in court, and allegedly killed someone in self-defense during a dirt bike encounter. However, in their celebration, CTS Lil Wick and his team had made a crucial error. Instead of remaining silent after the shooting, they were claiming credit and the background. Between these crews was what made things even more complicated. For months prior to the shooting, Lil Wick had been associated with Q50's adversaries in Chicago. He had even shouted out 95 Mob and smoked on Lil Jeff's name. The Bloodhounds were the target of a larger conspiracy by a network of adversaries. Following the shooting, their actions on social media were blatantly careless, and they were even being criticized by some of their own workers for being too careless with the information. Self-incrimination was at an unprecedented level, essentially creating a digital paper trail that documented their role in a serious, violent crime. Rob wrote on social media, "How many of you are going to perish behind this chain?" Even other Trap City members knew how terrible the situation was. Rob claimed to be the one who actually did Lil Jeff. Therefore, it is unquestionably on you. You can tell that things are going to turn ugly when your own people are, essentially stating that the battle isn't done. The realization that the Bloodhounds were no longer only active locally, however, was what truly shocked people. This organization was on a whole other level. Their resources, contacts, and shooters extended well beyond Chicago's South Side. That's not what Bloodhounds did, according to Trap City Terror. There are persons that are slithering with Bloodhounds. That's what it's doing. The message was the same whether they handled it themselves or through their associates. Defy the Bloodhounds and face consequences. Those cats who were celebrating the shooting of Q50 were beginning to realize they might have taken on more than they could handle back in St. Louis. Speaking slickly online can have real-world repercussions. As CTS Lil Wick and Real Houdini, we're about to discover after publicly taking credit for the attack online, publishing celebration videos, and making fun of Q50. And it wasn't simply a bunch of random street cats who were part of the St. Louis team that carried out the attack. After winning a murder case in 2024, CTS Lil Wick gained significant recognition. Despite being a white rapper in a drill culture that was predominantly black, his music had genuine street credibility because he had successfully defended his case in court and supposedly killed someone in self-defense during a dirt bike encounter. However, in their celebration, CTS Lil Wick and his team had made a crucial mistake. Following the shooting, they were all over social media, claiming credit and making fun of Q50 rather than remaining silent. A Q50 operator from 95 Mob YFG Lil Benji 8008 even made a mocking post in which he said, "Lord, please don't let him make it out of surgery," demonstrating the sheer number of adversaries Q50 had amassed in many states. The background between these crews was what further complicated everything. For months before the shooting, CTS Lil Wick had been associated with Q50's adversaries in Chicago. He had even shouted out 95 Mob and smoked on Lil Jeff's name. It was more than a simple robbery gone wrong. The Bloodhounds were the target of a bigger conspiracy by a network of adversaries. Following the shooting, their actions on social media were blatantly careless. They were even being criticized by some of their own workers for being too careless with the information. Self-incrimination was at an unparalleled level. In essence, they were producing a digital paper trail that documented their role in a serious violent crime.
I go through that every single day, losing my best friend, my heart, my big brother, my everything. The who wake me up in the morning, you know what I'm saying? Who I would every single day.
The broader implications of this situation go far beyond these specific individuals. When you have criminal organizations that are able to plan attacks and retaliation across multiple states, street politics reach a whole new level. Law enforcement agencies who previously struggled to share information across jurisdictions now have to deal with teams that move like corporations but fire like troops. All of this, including the role of social media, cannot be ignored. The entire game is changed when cats post their locations, live stream their misdeeds, and essentially create evidence trails in real time. But it also means that feuds that would have remained local can suddenly go viral and garner national attention. This issue is particularly troubling because it demonstrates how gang warfare has changed in the digital age. The Bloodhounds have a history of using social media and diss tracks to celebrate their violence, which feeds the loop online. Songs like King by Q50, images of Draco posing with 9 hats went viral and were taken to be allusions to body counts. Whether intentional or not, Q50 has insisted that a lot of his violent songs are actually allusions to violent video games like Grand Theft Auto and Call of Duty. He and Jeff also discuss teaching people how to play video games when they wind about taking it to school. However, when these artistic expressions are followed by actual violence, the distinction between entertainment and reality becomes dangerously hazy. This conflict's interstate dimension further emphasizes how contemporary gang fighting has transcended conventional local lines. Since law enforcement agencies frequently find it difficult to exchange information and coordinate investigations across jurisdictional boundaries, the capacity of criminal organizations to coordinate violent operations across state lines poses a serious obstacle. For Q50, this event has further strengthened his dedication to the Bloodhound lifestyle and his music career. The St. Louis shooting of Q50 and the Chicago response that followed are just another chapter in a battle that has already claimed far too many innocent lives. Serves as a reminder to those outside the scene that the conflicts we see being acted out in Instagram stories and music videos have real consequences. Despite having survived the shooting, he still has to deal with ongoing threats and the dangerous reality that his enemies are always on guard and waiting for an opportunity to attack. Every business decision, social media post, and public appearance must be carefully considered because they could put him in danger. Putting fantasies into action, respect, reputation, and retaliation can literally mean the difference between life and death in the world they live in. Now, it is unclear if someone will figure out how to stop this cycle before it takes more lives. But given the history of similar confrontations and the deeply rooted culture of vengeance that characterizes these groups, the violence is likely to continue until either law enforcement intervenes or the participants themselves decide that the cost is too high. Without a doubt, the Bloodhounds have once again demonstrated that they are serious about defending their own and exacting revenge on anyone who opposes them. And the lesson from this case is very clear for anyone considering testing them in the future. They have a long memory, they constantly collect their debts with interest, and they have a wider reach. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please click on one of the boxes that is playing on your screen.